For this video, I'm going to try something that I've tried before, but I think I don't try nearly enough. And that's interspersed updates throughout the day. So instead of telling you everything that happened from memory at the very end of the day, I'm going to try to do it when it's like fresh off. So let's do that. Well, if I'm remembering correctly with this morning, the time right now is currently 9:17 and I go to work at 10 o'clock. And I really need to take a shower, so as soon as I'm done recording this update that I'm going to put into the video, I'm going to take a shower. But when I woke up, it was 8:30 and was so cold, like it was a really chilly morning. And I remember not wanting to get out of bed, but I needed to use the restroom, go number one, so I did that. Then when I went back into my bed, I decided to set a timer for 15 minutes, and then I went back to sleep. Then the 15 minutes went up like that, and then when I got up, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still tired, and I'm still cold, and I still don't want to start the day. So I set the timer again. It was like not 8:45 for 5 more minutes, and I went back to sleep. But then I needed to use the restroom again, so I did that. Not sure if that's normal. Probably need to get that checked out. Well, anyways, I went to sleep, and it felt like as soon as I closed my eyes, the alarm went off again. So I decided, okay, fine, I'll get my day started. And how did I get my day started? Well, I opened my phone, and I clicked the YouTube app, and I was scrolling through YouTube, seeing if there was anything interesting that caught my eye. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Digital Foundry, which posts analysis on video game content, released a new video talking about District 33, I think is what it was called, a RPG with really high quality visuals. So I thought, sure, I'll check that out, but I want some coffee and something to go with it first. So I started the coffee machine, but there was a problem. The coffee machine was completely full of water in the bottom tray. So I had to dump the water out, and also the grounds that our coffee machine dumps into a container filled that container. So I had to dump that into the garden. So after I dumped that in the garden, I made my coffee. I had 1 cup of coffee plus 2 shots of espresso, pure black, and our family friend got some pastries, which was basically just really thin, crispy bread at a Mexican store yesterday. So I got like 5 of those, and then I turned on the TV to watch the Digital Foundry video. It was pretty interesting. The game itself looks really cool. It looks like if those Final Fantasy games had a more like realistic but still fantastical art style. Like instead of like an anime aesthetic, it's like more of a like Victorian like Renaissance fantasy painting aesthetic, because the proportions are a bit more realistic looking. It looks cool. I think I might give it a shot one of these days. Definitely when it's on sale, because there's way too many games on my PlayStation 5 to warrant diving into a new one right now. The backlog struggle is real. But anyways, yeah, I finished watching that, and then I wanted to check out the Digital Foundry Direct that I neglected to watch yesterday. Yeah, normally I'm on top of those, but I didn't watch it yesterday, so thought I'd watch it today. But again, I was running out of time, and while it was really interesting, they were talking about in the video game Days Gone. There's a new PS5 version released, and it looks pretty interesting. Although I don't like what they did with the lighting in the new version. It looks a bit too blue in my opinion. I don't think they should have messed with the lighting. I think they should have kept the lighting the same, but honestly, at the end of the day, the PS4 Pro running in back compat mode on PS5 is honestly fine enough as it is, that getting the PS5 version kind of feels superfluous unless you've never played the game before and you maybe want to play it with like a fresh coat of paint, I guess, that or with higher resolutions. That's what the PS5 version provides over the PS4 Pro on PS5 version. So there you go. Well, anyways, they were going on about that, and then I realized that time was running out and I needed to go get ready for work. Time is currently 9:23. So, yeah, that's pretty much the updates so far, and I will update you, I don't know when, maybe during my lunch break, 4 hours from now, or maybe after work, which would probably be the end of the video. But I think this is an interesting format because it helps me be a bit more conscious of how I spend my time. Because normally, like, I just, mess around throughout the day and then, like, talk about my messing around at the end of the day. But, I keep on saying in my previous videos, I want to do better, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I end up not doing it, and I end up getting stuck in my own mental habit patterns. And instead of improving my skills of being a storyteller, an editor, a writer, an artist, instead I kind of just fall back into my habits of just passive consumption. And this is why I'm doing this. It's to help kind of make myself more accountable by recording these. Well, anyways, it's getting late and I gotta get ready for work, so I'll see you in the future. And we're back. This time it's 2:32 in the afternoon. I am currently on my lunch break right now. And I thought, well, might as well share what's going on throughout the day. Well, I have time to. So let's do that. So when I got to work, I was greeting the customers. I was, asking questions about, oh, how are you? And that's a cool tattoo, or things like that. But then after I did that with one of the customers, I overheard that one of my coworkers was talking about, my gosh, I wish he would be quiet. He's always talking. And then that made me a bit self-aware that maybe I talk a little too much at work. I'm a bit of a chatterbox. So I asked a coworker, excuse me, do I annoy you? But not in like a, ooh, confrontational, do I know you, kind of way, but more in a calm, chill kind of, do I know you? Like earnest, And they said, well, they tried to be nice, they didn't want to sound mean. They basically said, well, I would prefer it if you'd be a bit quieter, that I feel like you say things when you don't need to say things. They said something along the lines of that. And when I heard that, I thought to myself, you know what? I think that person is right. I do say things when I don't need to say things. And I think I just talk to sort of mostly just entertain myself or fill this void of silence. But really, I think it's more important to appreciate the silence, because I feel like a lot of the time people are overstimulated enough as it is, what with phones and notifications and music playing and, having to take care of a family and all this stuff. And then on top of that, having like a guy come up and like ask a bunch of questions about like, how are you? Ooh, do you have cats? Ooh, I love cats, things like that. It can be a bit much. It can be laying it on thick. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop being neighborly or friendly, of course, but I am going to approach how I interact in a more thoughtful and less obstructive way, because I feel like perhaps I've been interacting like that for a long time, and like I've just been doing it and no one's really said anything before, so I just thought, well, this maybe they think it's okay. But then when I heard that and thought to myself, maybe it is a bit laying it on thick, It challenged me to recontextualize and rethink about how I approach social situations at my job. And I think that's a good thing. Well, anyways, there was a funny interaction at my job. For what I can remember, my coworkers were talking about a coworker. I'm not going to say who, but they were talking about how they forgot that coworker worked there because they normally call them something else instead of what like the coworkers normally called. And because of that, they were confused when a customer asked about that person being there. And then when I heard that, I recognized the coworker, and then I said he's my favorite coworker. And the reason I said that was because this person, we have a lot of fun. We like to shoot the breeze. Sometimes we like to play off each other when we maybe tell jokes or get into theatrics or do silly things. And it brings some life to the work environment, in my opinion. But my coworkers apparently were surprised when I said that and thought that it was shocking that that coworker was one of my, well, I said my favorite. I really should have said that. That was the first thing that popped in my head at the time because, on a good day when I'm interacting with them, we do create some fun memories, and so that's why I said that. But it's never a good idea to play favorites, especially in the workplace, because, everyone should be seen as equal and not one person should be seen as better than the other. Now, you can appreciate someone and say, oh, they're cool, I like them, but you shouldn't put them on a pedestal, otherwise it's putting too much social pressure, or it's just going to hurt someone's feelings because maybe you interact with them and then they thought that you, like, were on good terms, and then when they feel like they're being ranked, then maybe they feel like their feelings get hurt. And I wasn't really thinking about any of that. I just basically said that out loud, like, first thing in my head, without really thinking about it. And, I learned not to do that again, because one of the coworkers who heard it, we like to have fun conversations about various things when it comes to self-improvement, storytelling, films, TV shows. And so when I said that, maybe they had their feelings hurt because they thought that, like, I preferred to work with someone more than someone else. And that's not the truth at all. It's one of those things that you say that you don't really think about, and then you don't really think about the ramifications of why you said it, and then you find out why you shouldn't say it later. And yeah, I'm sorry, in case they're watching. But yeah, anyways, after that whole bout of awkwardness, I basically just tried to be entirely present at my job. Now, the thing with working at the job that I work at is that a lot of the time my brain is either thinking about things that, like, I've already heard, or it's thinking about things that I want to do. But it's never staying in the present. It's never just appreciating the fact that I am already here and I'm doing something now. And that's what I was trying to accomplish, like, because when I was, like, just boxing with other people at my job, I just felt it was appropriate to, like, ask them a lot of questions. But now, after going through that whole learning process, it's making me realize that maybe the best thing to do is to just be entirely present and to just absorb your environment and what's going on around you in the here and now, instead of getting too caught up with all the tiny little details that are too numerous to really, point out. But anyways, yeah, I basically just stayed quiet and just focused on the work, and then when I wasn't focusing on the work, I was focusing on being present there with my coworkers. And I have to say, it was a pretty interesting twist. Normally, I'm just so preoccupied, chattering, but today was different, where I just felt like I was there. And it made the time go by a lot faster, too, because I was, in a there mode. And that was pretty cool. And one more thing I wanted to mention before I stop recording, because it's running a little overtime. Well, not overtime. It's 2:42. I have to be at work by 3 o'clock again. Overall, the first half of the day was filled with a lot of lessons and interesting interactions, I have to say. One more thing I wanted to mention was a family friend, not the one that lives with us, but another one was there, and I told them about how I wanted to become a video editor slash filmmaker, and they told me about some app called Backstage where you can get access to being like an apprenticeship in that kind of environment, which, in all honesty, would be great for me because, while the job I work, it's been good to me and has offered me so much, if I do that job forever, I feel like when I get older, I'm just going to have regrets of the things that I didn't choose to pursue. So maybe this is a new door opening. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, anyways, I think that'll have to do it for now. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back and tell you about how the rest of the day went, probably during the night before I go to sleep, around 9 or 10. All right, see you soon. And we're back. The time is currently 10:44. And let's get into the rest of the day. Now, I didn't share what I had for lunch today, so I guess we could start with that. Our family friend made the most delicious tacos with masa, as I'm sure you would describe it as if you tried it yourself. And luckily, there were leftovers today. So I had beef tacos with freshly pressed masa corn tortillas that I pressed myself, and chopped up onions. They were already pre-chopped in a baggie. I just spread them over, and grated cheese. It was very good. After that, I was listening to a brand new video from one of my more favorite UAP channels called Eyes on Cinema. The video in question was apparently a former military employee who was driving down a road with his wife. And apparently, he came across a UAP that was like going a consistent distance and shining what he described as a fantastical and the best looking emerald green glowing light across the street that he had ever seen. And it was like, he described it like a rectangle that was like moving steadily. And apparently, he said it was huge, like 300 feet long and like 300 feet tall, I believe is what he said. But don't quote me on that. I might be misquoting. So do your own research. But yeah, I think it was like the most recent video that was posted based on the date of this video, the one on my channel's upload. But yeah, this guy seemed very earnest, very genuine. It didn't look like he was a storytelling at all or trying to make what he appeared bigger than what it actually was. He seemed like he genuinely saw something like eerie and otherworldly. And what made it more believable was that he was a former military, I think he was like a flight agent or like an engineer. I don't remember those exact details. I just remember he said he worked with planes and flying machines. And one of the things he said was that with those types of machines in the air, flying machines, they would always create a really loud or distinct sound. Like if you know what a plane sounds like when it's flying over you, just a stuff like that. But he said that this object that flew past him was doing so at a consistent speed, but very quickly, and it made no sound at all, like zero sound. So that's what puzzled him very much so. And this was recorded way back in it looked to be like the late 90s, early 2000s. So it couldn't have been consumer grade drones yet. And even if it were, I mean, drones make a lot of noise. Like, have you been around a drone before? Those propellers are really obvious. So, and drones aren't exactly hundreds of feet long and tall. So it was a really compelling account that this man gave. Definitely check out the Eyes on Cinema channel if you're a huge nerd into that UAP phenomenon like I am. Well, anyways, after that, I decided to listen a little bit to an audiobook called The Three Circle Problem, I believe. It was written by a Chinese woman, I believe, but I have to double check. But what I remember is that it was so interesting how it started. The reason why I was listening to it was because of that Jesse Michaels video where the guy was interviewing a former presidential advisor who said he apparently witnessed and handled the UAP craft that was downed. And in the video, Jesse Michaels recommended this audiobook because apparently, in order for you to convey truth, you have to do it through fiction in order to make it more digestible, because truth is stranger than fiction. That was like a quote from one of the former military agents who was interviewed about getting information out there to the public on the whole UAP phenomenon. So I guess the book is supposed to be some form of soft disclosure, even though it's written by supposedly written by a single person, or maybe, I mean, I that's all I know about it. I don't know anything other than that, so I'm not going to spread any kind of conspiracy theories or any of that. I'm just
saying like the book was recommended because a lot of the ideas that it explores in the book are apparently very reminiscent of like a lot of the real life like goings-ons with UAP material. So that's why I purchased the audiobook on audible.com and tried giving it a listen on my way to work after lunch. It was very interesting. It didn't exactly get into anything quite yet in terms of like, big reveals or whatever. It was more so about like building atmosphere for the story. And all I can remember is that like it takes place in early 1960s China. And from what I could recall, there's like a character who's like waving a flag and then they get incapacitated, and they fall like on the floor, and that's how the story starts. So I guess maybe like it's like some kind of protest that was violently ended, but it was pretty interesting hearing it. That's as far as I got in, because when I got to work, I had to turn the book off and just go straight to work. So I went to work, and the last 4 hours, they were pretty chill. I remained very present. I remained very calm. I remained very just focusing on my breath and being, still and quiet and mentally speaking, while just doing my duties. And it was good. One of our coworkers is leaving tomorrow for good. They didn't tell me what they're doing, but I do know because of they were telling someone else, and while I was punching out at work and overheard, and so I know. And also they were talking openly about leaving when they were here at work today. So I wish them the best on whatever endeavor that they're following, and yeah, I hope they have a good life, very good life. There was a coworker who wanted me to switch a day out with them, and they wanted me to do it through the app on my phone. But the thing is that I tried when I got off of work, but when I tried to do a day swap, it wouldn't allow me to. So I think it has to be done on my coworker's end first before I can accept the swap. So I'm going to have to talk to them about that tomorrow, if they're there tomorrow. First hour of returning back to work was spent bagging very quietly. Then there was some interesting behavior going on there. I remember one of my coworkers asked me to move out so they could bag in that place. It was the one that's going to be leaving tomorrow. I did because there was another spot open, and I guess it seemed like they wanted to bag there. So I was like, well, if they want to bag there, then I guess I can bag over there. I remember there was a funny joke I said to one of the customers, and it was basically, I told my boss, well, one of the key carriers, not the boss, just one of the key carriers in front of me, that I think there's a customer among us. And then I pointed to the customers. They were wearing a thing around their neck that had Among Us art. If you don't know, Among Us is a popular video game. And everyone thought that was funny, including the customer and the key carrier manager. So they laughed at that. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. What else happened? I switched a lot with someone today. That was cool. They said they really appreciated that. I did some breathing exercises on my last break, and then I carded for the last hour. It was a nice last hour. It was really calm and relaxing. Then I drove to the nearest store after getting off of work to pick up cinnamon pills, because my store doesn't carry cinnamon pills. I take those every day to help with my metabolism. So I found some, but then I called my mom to see if she wanted anything. She asked our family friend, and they both wanted zero sugar root beer. So I got that. A&W variety. And I decided to peruse around the store a bit because I was curious. When I went a little crazy, I got Jolly Rancher, what do you call those things? Like gummy ropes. Don't get those. They're not the business. They're a little too squishy, a little too soft. Like, I like my gummy ropes to have a bit of a bite to them, and if they're too gooey, then it just kind of goes into gross territory for me personally. And the flavor wasn't as bombastic as I would have liked. And I gotta be honest, I kind of regret buying those. Really shouldn't have done that. I did get a whatchamacallit bar. That was good. It was basically, think of it like if a Butterfinger, a Crunch bar, and a wafer all had a baby. That's what a whatchamacallit is. And it's really good. I really liked that. I liked. But I got these Lay's chips. I normally don't eat Lay's. Like, I'm not like a chip eater. I try not to because I don't want to, like, get fat. But I was like really bored and I wanted to try something I hadn't tried before. And I saw these not Lay's, they were the guy with the mustache. Pringles that were limited edition brat flavored. And I wanted to try those to see how they tasted. They weren't that good. They were very, I don't know, they were too artificial tasting. I didn't dig them. Regret buying those. They would have wasted $2. They were, I mean, still it's a chip. So what is that?
It's a surprise for your film.
It's watermelon. Whoa, look at this. Something has appeared. Watermelon from my mom. Let's try it out. Sweet, watery, and crunchy, and refreshing. It's good stuff. What was I talking about? Chips, they weren't the best. So don't get those chips, don't get those Jolly Rancher ropes. I mean, you can if you want to. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. You do what you want with your money. I do what I want with my money. But me personally, I'm not going to buy those again. I drove home, and when I got home, I stayed in my car a bit. I was watching this video of a guy talking about this old creepypasta. He was reviewing it. He was 26 years old, the same age as me. So that was interesting. And he was reviewing this old creepypasta called Jeff the Killer. It's pretty interesting. Hearing someone who's the same age as me's perspective on an old creepypasta that he grew up with when he was a kid like I was. Back in early 2010s internet land, which was a very magical time for the internet. Kids don't know what things were like. They were more free and cool, and now everything's so corporatized and regulated and ad-filled. It's a corporate nightmare now, whereas before it was free. It's like what the internet should have been perpetually. Instead, what it was for a brief blip in time before it becoming this overly corporatized monstrosity. Yeah. So after I was done watching that and eating those terrible Jolly Rancher ropes and half the whatchamacallit, I went into the house and I was presented with 3 taquitos, homemade taquitos with the taco meat earlier in the day by our family friend who was also cooking chicken legs, which I ate those chicken legs as well. Those were really good. I'm not gonna lie, I did feel pretty burned from paying the money I paid on all the junk food. I am never doing that again. It was like $28 for all that. And the only things I'm actually going to use every day are the cinnamon pills and, well, not every day for the root beer, but a lot of days for the root beer, for as long as those exist. So, I know whatchamacallit was good, but it was also a bit on the pricey side. Things that were a waste of money, $2 for that Pringles brat chip flavor. Nope. Jolly Rancher ropes. Nope. Why'd I get so many snacks? Should have just been satisfied with the whatchamacallit. Well, anywho, my mom had a meeting with her friends who came over. They had a little meeting together. They left recently. While they were doing that, I went in my room and I watched a video. It was a Digital Foundry Direct, the rest of it, where they were basically just talking about like how the Nintendo Switch game cards are total nonsense because they're not really built to last in the future. And when the Nintendo servers go down, you will lose access to your library you invested so much money in, which isn't so great. Kind of makes me not interested in getting a Switch 2 and just waiting to play them in a different kind of way, if you know what I mean. Secondhand market. Yeah. Then I watched a guy try to ask philosophical questions at ChatGPT, basically trying to gaslight it and break its brain, which is interesting. Then I was watching 2 guys react to all 4 Minion movies playing at the same time, which is pretty funny. Well, really, the first Despicable Me films and the first Minions, but let's be real, most people just call all of it the Minions anyways. They ate an entire cake while doing that. It was pretty dumb, but kind of funny. And I recorded this, and after I'm done recording this, I'm probably just gonna take my vitamins, brush my teeth, and go to sleep. Tomorrow I go to work 12 to 9, so I'm hoping to get some good stuff done tomorrow morning. Specifically, maybe work on a video project. That would be a good start. Or teach myself how to animate. Anything that isn't just sitting and doing nothing while mindlessly watching TV or scrolling through my phone. That would be great. Well, thank you for watching, and have yourself a great day. Bye.